How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and I've got a great one for you today. Listen, while I'm usually telling you why you should come here, today I'm giving you the top 10 reasons why you should not move to Denver. Let's do it. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everetts, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the pros and cons, ins and outs of moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then no question, this is the channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon down below, make sure you're clicking on that as I'm dropping 2 videos for you each and every week. And listen, as much as I love getting creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed loan officer covering the entire state of Colorado and partnered with some of the best realtors in town. So the number and email popping up below, I'm always the person answering the phone calls, answering the texts, answering the emails. Happy to be a resource for you in any way, shape, or form I can. All right, so now that we have all that fun stuff out of the way, let's get to what we're here for, and that is the top 10 reasons why you should not move to Denver, Colorado. Now that might seem a little counterintuitive, seeing as the whole position here is to help people move, but at the end of the day, you need to know what the hell is going on to a potential state or a potential city that you're moving to. So let's hit point number 1, and that is the population in Denver is booming. The county of Denver, the city of Denver, has increased in population by over 100,000 people over the last 10 years. That's almost a 20% increase. And when you look at all the counties surrounding Denver, all of them have also seen double-digit, and most of them over 15% increases in population over that same time span. So what you're going to hear from a lot of locals in Denver is that you've seen this population boom that the city hasn't quite caught up with. Housing, roads, infrastructure, services. These are all things that in some way, shape, or form have affected Denver over the last 10 years that we're still coping with and adjusting to. So if you're looking for a place that hasn't seen a lot of people moving here, then this is probably not the town for you, because Denver is on fire when it comes to population growth. I can attest to this, seeing as probably a fourth of the people I work with, a fifth of the people I work with are coming here from out of state, and I'm helping a lot more people move to Colorado than I am seeing past clients moving out of Colorado. So tying into that population gain is point number 2, and that's traffic sucks to an extent, and that people here don't know how to drive. I wish I could tell you they did, but they don't. They're not very good at merging. They're not very good at driving the speed limit. Forget about it if you want them to take a left-hand turn. So traffic, if you're talking about coming here from California or New York, the city, Chicago, traffic here isn't gonna spook you. But if you're coming from just about any other metropolitan area or smaller, Denver traffic's gonna drive you nuts, because it's constantly in this state of slowed down. Not stopped, but it's constantly in a state of slowed down. You know, when I first moved back to the state around 2008, 2009, you could genuinely get anywhere in the city in 20 minutes. I could get from where my house is down to DTC, the Denver Tech Center, which is where a lot of people work. I'm in Lakewood. Mileage-wise, we're talking 15, 16 miles. Used to be a 20-minute drive. Now, consistently, if you're anywhere near rush hour, that drive is 40 minutes. And again, it's not this grueling stop and start. It's just the fact that traffic here kind of drags. And people, I know that people love to think about how you should, if you're in the left lane, you should be going fast as possible. And I agree, that's a fact. However, what kills me in Denver is the fact that people just like to ride along in the far right lane at slow ass speeds that stop you from getting on or off of the highway. That might happen where you're from, and that might not even impact you, but I'm just gonna tell you because it annoys the out of me. And tying into this traffic issue is the fact that, one, Denver public transportation is not the best. It's not terrible. We've got a light rail system. Depending on where you live, it may be helpful to you, but if you're not near a light rail station and you're used to using some type of subway or L train or something like that, good luck. Yes, we have Uber here. Yes, we have Lyft here. They got that everywhere, so Denver can't really brag about that. And our bus system is all right. So combine the fact that you have more people driving and that they don't know how to drive and that we don't have the best public transportation. You also mix the fact that, as a lot of cities are seeing that are growing in population, Denver's infrastructure as far as highways isn't exactly ready for this type of growth. So our two big highways, I-25 going north and south, I-70 going east to west, they're trying to expand those in certain areas, especially I-70 as you head out east. The problem is that these roads, there's just nowhere to build them or no way to really widen them to add another lane or do any of that stuff. I-25 in particular rides right along the western side of downtown Denver. They can't exactly move the city, and on the other side of the highway and next to downtown Denver is the Broncos Stadium, Mile High Stadium, so you're kind of hamstrung. So that's one of those issues. As you see more population coming here, you're not going to see traffic get lighter. So point number 3, you're talking about a place that a lot of people want to move to, and there's only so much land, and they want to be near the mountains. So shocker, it's getting pricey here. Cost of living in Colorado is increasing rapidly. It has been night and day. When I first moved here in 2008, one of the biggest aspects to moving to Colorado was the price of rent and eventually real estate. I wanted to buy a home. So at the time I was living in New York, and buying even a piece of crap house in New York was gonna cost me 500 grand. And I said to myself, oh wise that I am, I wanna live somewhere where I don't have to pay $500,000 for a house. That was accurate back in 2008. Now, moving to Denver at this point, depending on where you're looking for a home, there is a good chance that you are going to be, if you're looking to buy a home, you're going to be looking 500 and above for that house. Your cost of living, again, depending on where you're coming from. If you're coming from Chicago, New York, LA, Washington, DC, you get the obvious, then Denver is either going to be even or better for you. Just about anywhere else, Denver has a higher cost of living than the national average by quite some bit, and that continues to increase. Groceries aren't the cheapest. And the one thing, and honest to God, this I'm going to divert just to bug my editor a little bit. The thing that bugs me about Denver to an extent. So I used to work in the nightclub restaurant business before I got into lending. And Denver used to just accept the fact that it was Denver. You used to be able to go to a bar, grab a couple beers, they'd cost you $4 or $5 a piece. And at some point, Denver just decided that it was Las Vegas without being Las Vegas. So it is now the place where if you go downtown and you go to a bar and you want to grab a couple beers, the beers are going to cost you $8, $9. If you go to get a cocktail, even if it's it's going to cost you $13, $14 a cocktail at a lot of these bars. And then heaven forbid you actually go to a restaurant or one of these like fancy ass bars where all of a sudden the drinks are $16, $17. So Denver has that issue. I'm not saying there aren't places that are cheaper, but don't expect to come here and see a lot of, $1 you call it's, $2 you call it's the bars around here. That ain't happening. So there's a lot of people, you can't drive, it's a little expensive to go out to the bar. So let's just keep adding to it. Point number 4, it snows here. Now, you might be coming from somewhere that has snow, and unfortunately I can't talk it up and say that it is a blizzard here all the time, but Denver does get snow. So if you're afraid of snow, if you're incapable of driving in snow, if maybe you get cold and you can't drive in snow, this might not be the place for you. You might want to think about somewhere a little southern. So even in Colorado, if you go as far south as, say, Colorado Springs or Pueblo, your odds of dealing with snow decrease. It still snows there, but they decrease. If you're gonna live in Denver, you're gonna deal with some snow. And here's another little pro tip for you. The real snow, if you move to Denver, doesn't come in November or December or even really January, although we start to see it in January. It really starts to hit you in February, and March is our snowiest month. So if you move here in like September, October, and it gets into the end of the year and you get through Christmas and New Year's Eve and you start telling yourself, the snow here isn't that bad, just wait, because you don't know it could come any moment. Do it. Do it. Now, let's say that, forget the snow for a minute, or maybe the snow's involved, but point number 5, maybe you're not a very active person. And people in Denver love to be active. They love getting outside, they love hiking and biking and camping and all of those things. They like dragging their friends to parks to play volleyball and softball when it's warm out. They like golfing and basketball. They like mountain biking. I know I already mentioned, but there's trails everywhere. So I fully admit, when I first moved back here in 2008 from New York, I didn't like any of that crap. I didn't like going out into the mountains. I mean, I didn't mind a little drive, whatever, but I was not trying to hike multiple miles. I wasn't trying to jump on a mountain bike. Ugh, I get a little, like, throw up in my mouth just thinking about it. So if you are anti being active and you're not a big outdoors person, then Colorado might stink for you, because there are a lot of people who, when you want to hang out with them, that is going to be the thing that they want to do when you hang out. And let's say that you're into summer sports, but you're not into winter sports. Well, be careful, because if you have friends who their big thing is snowboarding or skiing or something like that, during the winter, they're not going to be your friends for a little while, because they're busy going up to the mountains and skiing. And sure, you can go up to the mountains with them, but they're going to be gone most of the day. You're going to be all by yourself, lonely, because you're inactive and you don't know how to ski. I'm basically talking to myself right now because I still don't know how to ski or snowboard, but you get it. And let's say you are active. Let's say you like getting out and about. You're getting into hiking and things like that. Well, it goes back to that population growth. Hiking trails, a lot of these outdoor activities, the ski lodges, when you see the lines to get to a lift at a ski resort, it's crazy. So whereas when I first moved back here and I could go and I could just enjoy a trail and go for a nice stroll with friends and you wouldn't be bothered by anybody, now there's a lot of people on them. Sometimes they do things like they bring these small humans that cry when you walk with them, which doesn't really make a lot of sense when you're thinking about the peacefulness of nature, and instead you've got this little infant crying. But apparently you can't leave infants behind, so I mean, it's understandable that they bring the kid, but that's why. So just understand, the trails aren't as calm. You're gonna get pretty busy trails. As you see, I like to be a little goofball about this. All right, so reason number 6, marijuana. Yeah, that's right. So marijuana being legal in the state of Colorado recreationally, obviously it's been legalized for medicinal reasons, because a lot of people have glaucoma. I can't even say the words. But now that it's legalized recreationally, Colorado, definitely a reason for our population growth. And you see it quite a bit. You're going to see a lot of stores. It's the Amsterdam of the West, as they call it right now. I won't embellish. I think it's gotten a little better as other states have legalized marijuana and there's other places to go, but there are still some impacts of it. So if you're big anti-marijuana, yeah, you're gonna smell it from time to time. If you go to any music concert, you like going to Red Rocks, which is one of the most insane, amazing concert venues in the planet, you're gonna smell it pretty routinely. So listen, we're halfway through this video and you're either listening to me and you're not moving to Denver, or you're not listening to me and you're thinking about moving to Denver. So just in case, keep in mind, I am a licensed loan officer covering the entire state of Colorado, partnered with some of the best realtors covering Colorado. So that number and email popping up below, I'm always the person answering the phone calls, answering the texts, answering the emails. Happy to be a resource for you in any way, shape, or form I can. And listen, I'm going to add to this. I'm not saying that marijuana causes it, but along with the legalization of marijuana, we have, at least in the same timeline, seen an increase in our homeless population here in Denver. Especially if you're going downtown, you're going to see it. You're going to see the tent cities. You're going to see people out and about laying on the street. And probably one of the more frustrating things that we have here is the fact that I don't really get the sense that Denver has a plan for how to assist these people. There's been different talks and different suggestions, and even before the pandemic certainly sped that along, and you saw things get outrageous or out of control. But even before that, when I first moved back, as you walk downtown, you'd see a homeless person here or there, as far as like laying on the street and whatnot. Now, pretty widespread, and I don't think that they have put a lot of plan or action into helping these people in any way. So just be aware of that. Again, I'm not saying that marijuana caused it. I'm saying it just started around the same time, so maybe a little bit. So number 7, Denver has all the sports teams. Unfortunately, at least recently, they like to let us down. And as a kind of caveat to that, our fans are kind of frustrating. So The Denver Broncos own Denver. Everybody is about the Broncos. And for the majority of my life, the Broncos have always been good. They've always been competitive. Maybe they had a bad season here or there. So over the last 6 years, if you're not really keeping touch, the Broncos have not been very good. And all of a sudden, the fans here, it's like they know less about football every day. The games aren't as fun anymore because the fans get a little butthurt. You know, we're not used to losing at our stadium. So now, as opposing fans, I think we used to get opposing fans coming to the game. I'm a season ticket holder, so I'm there all the time. We used to get opposing fans, and there'd be a little crap talk back and forth, you know, a little trash talk, nothing too big. But now that Denver loses a lot, the fans are so butthurt, it just kind of gets a little out of control. I'm not saying people are brawling, but it gets a little petty. As for our other sports teams, I mean, you got the Colorado Rockies. They've been amazing. They've been just wasting a baseball team for like 26 years. They've won a couple divisions in 26 years. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. And then you've got the Nuggets, Denver Nuggets in basketball, Colorado Avalanche in hockey. They've been pretty good recently, and tends to be a good outing when you go to Ball Arena or the Pepsi Center where they play. But again, Denver is the type of town, and we're seeing it now even with the Broncos, where if the team's good, everybody's there, everybody's a loyal, loving fan, and the second those teams start sucking, they're empty. So if you happen to be an opposing fan and you want cheap tickets, just hope our team sucks, and then you can get tickets like the Detroit Lions tickets I'm going to sell on December 12th for like $40 a piece. So number 8, we're going to talk about the sun. So people in Denver, including myself and a lot of my videos, we like to brag about the fact that we get on average 300 days of sun per year. Depends on what part of town you're in, but on average 300. The issue with all of that sun is that we also tend to get burned. Man, I can't even hide it. I was going to say altitude is number 9, but I can't do it because combine the sun with altitude, not a lot of protection against it. So whereas you might be able to hang out on a beach somewhere, obviously at sea level, and be around the sun for a while and not get burnt, if you're out in the sun in Denver for like 30 minutes when that sun is blistering out in the middle of summer, you're going to get fried, and you're going to get fried quick. So the sun is a challenge. Also, when we talk about that altitude, let's say you come out here from sea level and you think you are invincible. You can drink all day, you can handle yourself. Get ready. So let's say you're coming from sea level, you're coming to the Mile High City, and you think you have pretty good tolerance. Get ready, because it catches you off guard. And especially, you come here, you have a couple beers, few beers, it's gonna hit you differently than it did back at sea level. No question. And it gets even worse in the mountains. So if you think you're gonna fly in, head right up to the mountains, do some skiing, start kicking back some drinks, the next day you're gonna wonder why your head is screaming and why you fell off the bar stool about 17 times. The altitude will get you. So the sun will burn you, altitude will mess with your ability to consume alcohol with any type of tolerance. Maybe I had a couple drinks for this video, I can't even get my mouth to work. And number 9, Denver is dry. In fact, it is technically a high altitude desert. So what does that mean to you? It means that especially in the wintertime, as soon as it starts getting cold, it's so dry that if you're not wearing gloves, you're going outside, within 15, 20, 30 minutes, your hands, they're gonna start drying out. You'll get cracks in your fingers. You see it all the time. People have to over lotion here. And I don't know, maybe it's just a guy problem, but we are not very good at this whole lotion thing on our hands. So every winter, it's kind of hilarious. You can tell which guys wear gloves and which guys don't, because it looks like they've constantly been in fights because their knuckles are all dried out and bloody. So just keep in mind, Denver, dry as can be. And finally, number 10, we're dry because we're in the middle of the United States and there's no water here. So if you're big into water, if you like going to big lakes, maybe you live near an ocean or you can drive to a huge reservoir, not so much out here in Denver. Most of our lakes are going to be reservoirs. They're going to be man-made in some way, shape, or form. Man-made, man-adjusted. And compared to where you are coming from, chances are they might be more of a pond than what you expect. The biggest body of water close to downtown Denver is called Sloan's Lake. Now, it's a pretty area. It's awesome. It's right by Mile High Stadium, but the lake itself is 2.5 miles around walking. So if you're thinking about bringing out your yacht, your huge boat, you love water skiing, yes, you can get it done, but you're not going to get it done to the level you are accustomed to, especially if you have lived near like serious water. It just does not exist in Denver. It's not our fault. When they were trying to figure out where to make Colorado, they didn't make it near the ocean. All right, so there was 10 hopefully not very good reasons to not move to Denver, Colorado, because after all, you don't get over 100,000 people to move somewhere over a 10-year period if the place sucks. And that's just one part of the city. There are people moving here all over the place. And so, in order to help you do that, feel free to reach out. Call the number popping up below. I always answer the calls, answer the texts, answer the emails as well. This has been the top 10 reasons not to move to Denver, Colorado. If you didn't listen to that, you're still thinking about moving here. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am Jimmy Everetts. Until next time, peace.